Christmas in Love opens with Ellie, the female lead, enthusiastically putting up Christmas decorations and ornaments. Her mother, in a bid to get her to embrace doing what she truly loves and make money from it, suggests she makes more wreaths for sale, but Ellie, as usual, insists she makes them solely as a hobby. As they look out of the shop window, they spot Carl, Ellie's ex-boyfriend, helping set up decorations for the coming Christmas festival. Grace, aware of their breakup, the cause and the nature of their current relationship, asks if Ellie spoke to him on her way in, but Ellie states that all she did was wave at him. Ellie is about to leave when Grace brings up the matter of the wreaths again. Like earlier, Ellie reiterates that she has no time and needs to get to work. At the bakery where Ellie works, she greets everyone she meets and stops to straighten the wreath on the door before heading in. She meets Richard, her father, inside, and he informs her about an impending visit by someone from the corporate arm of the bakery. He tasks Ellie with sharing the news to the team, as she has a way with them he does not have. Ellie breaks the news to the team of bakers, and as expected, they are upset about the visit, unsure what it means for them. In San Francisco, Nick, the male lead and heir to the Carlingson Bakery, has a conversation with his father, Jack Carlingson. They discuss the direction the company should take and Nick's planned visit to the bakery in a small town in Missouri. Nick suggests he has plans to fully automate the bakery to maximize production and in turn increase profit, but his father, holding firmly to his principles, refuses the idea. Nick, although reluctant, leaves for the bakery in Missouri under a different name, so as to ensure there is no special treatment given to him based on his status. In the next scene, Ellie and her mother are once again discussing wreaths and how she used to make them with her grandmother. Her mother, Grace, confident in the idea that there is more for Ellie outside of Missouri, urges her to explore, but Ellie is waiting for the right opportunity. Nick Carlingson, now in Missouri, is on a call with his mother Marion. Concerned, she asks him about the nature of his accommodation, and he implies that it is not to his taste, but it will be enough, considering it is only for a brief stay. Nick, bothered by his father's desire to run the business as it has always been run, leaving very little room for innovation or change, holds firmly to his idea automation is what the bakery needs and should adopt. Nick, ill-prepared for the weather and life in a small town, slips in the snow right next to Ellie's parked car. Oblivious to his presence there, she pushes open the car door and it slams him in the face. Apologetic and worried when she realizes her mistake, she offers to foot the bill if he chooses to see a doctor. He insists that he is just fine, refusing to see a doctor. Before she leaves, she notices his shoes and suggests that he purchases a pair of boots to provide a firmer grip in the snow, but he insists the shoes are his favorites, highlighting his unwillingness to conform. Ellie meets Haley, her best friend, at a diner and brings a box of pastries freshly made from the bakery for her. While they are there, Carl comes around. The conversation that ensues is friendly, and she commends his efforts towards the success of the festival. Carl offers an empty, unclaimed booth to Ellie for free to sell her wreaths during the festival, but Ellie kindly refuses the offer. Carl, a true gentleman, does not push or insist, bids them goodbye and leaves. Haley, convinced Carl is trying to get Ellie back, points it out, but Ellie makes it clear that she hopes it is not the case, wishing him nothing but happiness. As the conversation goes further, they discuss Ellie's attempt at getting a job in San Francisco, which did not work out. Ellie, embracing optimism, insinuates that perhaps she made a mistake thinking a different life in San Francisco is ideal. Haley explains that she loves the town and hopes to build a family in it, but urges Ellie to pursue her dreams of a life outside of the small Missouri town. Ellie returns to work, and Richard introduces Nick to her as the man from corporate. It is abundantly clear that this meeting is not their first, so she explains the circumstances of their earlier meeting to him. Richard, kind and trusting, offers to let Nick stay in their guest room if his current accommodation is not up to par, and Ellie, referring to Richard as Dad, asks to take it from there. She goes from office to office, passionately retelling the history of the business and showing him framed photographs. Before they go into the kitchen, she asks one of the bakers to get Nick out of his suit and into something more kitchen appropriate. When he returns, he still sticks out like a sore thumb. Curious, he asks why Ellie knows so much about the actual baking process, as she works in the human resource department. She explains that while she loves and enjoys baking, it is tradition that everyone has to start from the bakery. Nick tries to get to know Ellie better on a personal level, but she cuts him off, stating that he needs to get to work learning to make the bakery's famous Kringles. They shift to a conversation about Christmas, and Nick's clinical nature is seen when he says preparation for Christmas, that lasts just a day, is too much effort. Ellie, attempting to explain why it is worth it, tells him it is more than just the day, and the true value is in the little moments shared. Nick goes on to table his opinion about automating the bakery, and as expected, she does not agree with him. Ellie is at a table making a wreath as she discusses Nick with her father. She expresses her distrust for the staff from corporate, and Nick is not an exception. When Richard leaves the room, Nick comes in and honestly compliments the wreath she is making. The wreath is for the firehouse as a gift, so Ellie tries her best to make it perfect. In the next scene, Ellie loads a truck full with boxes of Kringles with damage of any kind that makes them unfit for sale. The boxes are for the food bank. Nick and Ellie joke about taking them to a loving home, and they share a laugh. When they arrive at the food bank, Donna and Michaela are filled with gratitude and welcome them with open hands. Ellie gives Donna a gift for her daughter, a stocking. While Donna is grateful, she feels she should have not been bothered, considering she has a lot on her plate. Ellie, convinced she is not doing half of what Donna does to help people, states that she deserves everything she could ever do for her. Ellie introduces Donna and Michaela to Nick, and they immediately note that he must be from corporate. When they pack the boxes in, Donna asks Nick to thank the head office when he returns, because the support of the bakery has been invaluable to the food bank. Nick is surprised, but Donna explains that it is not just the discards from the bakery, but they also have dinners at the Christmas tree lighting party. It used to be just the town, but people from other towns have also joined in, since they fell into hard times, so more help is needed to provide enough for everyone. Ellie promises to once again organize the donation collection, promising that it will be enough to go around. She helps Nick understand that people in the town help each other at every chance they get. Nick, trying to understand the donations, asks Ellie how it works. Ellie mentions to him that last year, a staff member of the bakery generously gave away all of his Christmas bonus. When she asks if they do not have an arrangement like that at headquarters, Nick admits to having just a toy drive. Ellie goes to her mother's shop in the next scene, and Grace encourages her to take the stall Carl offered earlier. She points out that she could make more wreaths for sale, but Ellie reiterates her lack of time, especially with the festival only a week away. She is busy with work, very much so now that Nick is around. Grace, in typical fashion, stresses the need for Ellie to step out of her comfort zone. Ellie, now considering it, is worried she might not have sufficient patronage, but Grace, optimistic as always, assures her that will not happen. Ellie goes to a diner in town and finds Nick seated. With a nudge from Violet, a friend and waiter, she sits with him and they eat together. As they talk, Nick wonders aloud if Ellie is happy with her life, and although she pauses briefly, she insists that she is. She notes that she has been posed that question a lot recently. Nick, taking the pause to be indication of doubt, calls it stalling and uncertainty on her part. He probes her to find what her true passion is, and she talks about making wreaths and other crafts, stating that she likes to bring out the beauty in things that are otherwise not considered beautiful. Nick, just like her mother, advises her to turn her passion into a career, but Ellie still has doubts about it. He manages to convince her to give it a shot, and when they leave the diner, she meets with Carl to accept his offer. She introduces Nick to Carl, not forgetting to add that he is from the corporate office in San Francisco. Carl mentions that Ellie has always loved San Francisco, and save for the unfortunate interview situation, she would be there. Nick pronounces that a big mistake on their part, for missing out on hiring someone like her. When Carl leaves, Ellie informs Nick he is her ex-boyfriend, and Nick is not surprised by the revelation, noting remnants of whatever it is that once was between them. Ellie explains that it did not end on mutual terms, but she put an end to the relationship because she no longer could picture a future with them on the same path. In the next scene, Ellie shows Nick the Kringle making process again, and he reiterates that machines will do all the work in half the time with twice the accuracy. She talks about the Jack Carlingson, the CEO, coming down to the bakery a while back and doing everything with them, including night shifts. Nick, being cautious, worries about being left to frost the Kringles due to his lack of expertise. He worries that it would mean wasted product, but she insists he doesn't. Nick wonders out loud if she met the CEO, and she confirms she did. He takes the piping bag from her and attempts to frost the Kringle, but ruins it. Nick is on a call with his father in the next scene, and he admits the staff and people are just as nice and welcoming as his dad told him. Noting that everything is done entirely by hand, he tries to pitch newer ideas, but Jack insists all he has to do is gain more experience in the bakery. Nick ends the call when Ellie and Richard come in. Richard kindly asks that Nick joins his family for dinner, but Ellie tries to uninvite Nick. Richard refuses to relent, and Nick accepts the invitation. At Ellie's parents' home, Grace, her mother announces the roast should be ready to eat in an hour. Ellie joins her mother to cook, making dessert, and Nick, assuming she bakes all day at work and returns home to bake again, asks about it. But she explains she only bakes at work if she has someone she needs to show the ropes, like him. She adds that baking at home is a holiday tradition. Ellie wonders if there is nothing like that in his family, but it is clear the Carlingsons are busy with work and life, busy even during the holidays. Nick notes that Ellie's family all seem so close, and Ellie sarcastically praises his cookie decoration skills, joking that it only looks half deceased. He defends himself with the excuse of a lack of practice, as his family usually order food for Christmas and go right back to their busy lives. As they talk, Grace comes in with a box filled with Christmas ornaments. Nick helps with the Christmas tree decorations, and Richard, craving perfection, is worked up over the placement. Ellie comes to Nick's aid by pronouncing that there is no right or wrong in Christmas decorations. When Richard poses the question of whether Nick has decorated a tree before, Nick makes it clear he did as a child, but when he grew older, his parents simply hired decorators. This hints at a family with sufficient means. After dinner, Ellie kindly walks Nick back to his lodge. Nick, unwilling to cause her any inconvenience, points out she did not have to. Ellie assures him she enjoys walks at night, especially at Christmas. Also, the lodge is on the way to her place as well. Ellie wonders what it is like living in San Francisco, as everyone who comes from the corporate office always seems so happy, as though they are on the verge of living their best lives. Reminiscing on her failed interview, she knows she can try again, but is filled with doubts about it. Nick tries to encourage her to focus solely on her crafts, but Ellie insists it is too risky. They walk past a store with one of her wreaths hanging on the door, and Nick reiterates there is an entire market available to her online. As a step in that direction, she decides to start with just the booth. When Nick returns to his room in the lodge, he is on a call with his mother. They make plans to properly celebrate Christmas when he and his sister return home. Nick is unsure of the time of his return because his father does not want him to return just yet. Marion explains to Nick that he and his father are more alike than he thinks because they both define themselves by their achievements and successes. Although their approaches might be different, they have the same goal. When Ellie returns to the bakery the next day, she is surprised to find Nick there early and at work. He had already made a full tray of Kringles, and she praises his work, almost completely impressed. Richard comes by, seeking donations for the food bank charity dinner, and just like the other staff, Nick makes a donation. After collection, Nick and Ellie deliver the donations and the Kringles with defects. Donna and Michaela, clearly excited, announce an anonymous donation of $5,000. They are convinced it must be from Jack Carlingson. Ellie volunteers herself and Nick to help with the dinner and put in a tough spot. Nick accepts to help if he is still in town. Ellie apologizes for her actions, but Nate calms her, happy to join her to make a difference. Ellie, bound by what she believes to be her responsibility, chooses to help at the food bank, recognizing her privilege. She drives the delivery van back to her house, offering him the keys to the truck to drive back to the lodge, since she can walk to work the next day. Afraid it is an inconvenience to her, he offers to pick her up the next day, but she declines. Nick, willing to go out of his way for her because she does the same for everyone else, helps her with preparations for the stall. While they are at it, Carl calls, and she refuses to pick up. Nick points out that there still is something between them. While she thinks Carl is only trying to combat the awkwardness, Ellie is curious about his love life, but he is not romantically involved with anyone, fully focused on work. He adds that maintaining a relationship and a job is strenuous. Although Ellie agrees with him, she believes the presence of the right woman in his life would provide him with incentive to try harder. She goes on to say she and Carl were not right for each other, and if they stuck together, they would both be miserable. In the next scene, Ellie is back at the diner to give Haley, her best friend, the wreath for the firehouse. Haley feels it is perfect, and she loves it, although she cannot believe Ellie had the time to finish it, considering all the work she has to do. Kindly, Haley offers her help, and Ellie mentions Nick's assistance the night before. Seeing what seems to be a growing bond, Haley thinks he is cute, but Ellie writes off the chance of a relationship due to the distance. Carl unexpectedly shows up in the diner, and Ellie apologizes for not returning his call. She asks him about what he said he has to tell her, and he insists, not there and not then. When he leaves, Haley longingly talks about how any girl in town would love to date Carl. Ellie, noticing the longing in her tone, realizes she likes him. But Haley rules out the possibility of a relationship, assuming he does not view her romantically. The next day, Ellie gets to work and meets Nick there again early, and Nick thanks Hal for showing him the ropes. Nick and Ellie go to the diner for food. At the diner, Nick shows her research and statistics on the sales of seasonal decorations in the United States of America. It is his attempt at convincing her to pursue selling her craft. Despite his effort, she refuses to give up her job to pursue something unreliable. The scene changes to show Nick and Ellie at the festival venue, looking for her stall. As they search, Nick offers to build her a website to facilitate sales. Carl finds them and asks about the progress of her inventory. He reminds her of the conversation they are to have in private, but leaves for work. Ellie, behind on schedule, and without enough crafts to sell, enlists the help of everyone including her parents and Haley to be ready in time. Carl speaks to Nick about Ellie and the significant amount of time they have been spending together. Nick explains that they cannot help it because she was assigned to show him around. But Carl insists it is something different and warns Nick to not hurt Ellie or play with her heart. Ellie managed to set up her booth and fills it in time for the festival, and contrary to her doubt-motivated premonition, the wreaths are selling out fast. Donna, gladdened by the sales, reprimands Ellie for not selling her wreaths sooner. She utilizes the opportunity to remind her of their commitment towards organizing the charity dinner. When Donna leaves, Carl stops by and inquires about the business, happy about its success. Ellie, clearly worried he intends to make her his date, is surprised when he asks if she would be okay with him asking Haley instead. Elated, she wholeheartedly asks him to go ahead. Haley comes by the booth one more time, and this time, everything is sold out. Visibly excited about Carl's request to be her date, she asks if Ellie is fine with it. Ellie throws her full support behind them. Haley encourages her to throw every caution to the wind with Nick. When Ellie leaves the booth, she goes to Nick's lodge to announce her sales and request his help with writing a business plan. As they talk, things get heated quickly and they share a kiss. During Thanksgiving dinner, Ellie announces that she might delve fully into the world of arts and crafts. Her family, supportive and proud, promise she could always return to the bakery if it fails. At the festival, Carl gives a heartwarming speech filled with gratitude for every form of help rendered, making sure to thank everyone involved. As he speaks, Jack Carlingson shows up unannounced, to the surprise of everyone present. He does the tree lighting and everyone cheers. The joy and festivity in the air is evident. Ellie's crafts sell out again for the second day, and she is left with more orders to work on. Confident in the assumption that he made the huge donation, Ellie thanks Jack, but he refuses to take credit for it. Ellie takes a wreath to Nick's room in the lodge, but meets his absence. She places the wreath on a table and finds his running laptop on the website he is building for her. Led by curiosity, she clicks on a different tab and finds a proposal for automation with his real name on it. She discovers his true identity and feels betrayed, so she leaves, teary-eyed. Nick's absence is explained when we see him and his father Jack at the diner, discussing the town and its people. Nick admits to his father he made the donation, and he is glad. He believes Nick finally sees the people as he does. Jack expresses his regrets about his partial involvement in Nick's life and apologizes profusely. Nick denounces his belief in automation being the way forward and promises to not let the company go down in his care. Nick returns to the lodge, finds the wreath, and with one look at the open screen of his laptop, realizes what had happened. Ellie, still hurt, informs her parents of the automation plans. Sad and enveloped by the feeling of betrayal, Richard refuses to listen to Nick's explanation, believing it is best that he takes his leave. On Christmas Day and the finale of the festival, he tries to speak to Ellie again, but she sends him away. Left with no other option, he goes on stage, introduces himself, and clears the air. He announces that there are no plans for automation, and more staff will be hired to up production for all year-round sales of Kringles. The town is elated. Everyone is happy. Nick and Ellie approach each other with smiles on their faces, reconcile their differences, and in an emotional moment, they kiss passionately as the movie ends.